Just when we thought Florida State might not be taking any players this spring, they make a couple late additions on the defensive side of the ball and help bolster some depth. One of them being Amarian Duke Cooper, and if that name sounds a little familiar, it's because it is. He used to play DB for Florida State before transferring to Colorado for a year, and before you guys start jeering and asking why we're taking a kid back from Colorado, I can tell you he's being brought back in purely for depth purposes. Like I mentioned, he played corner for us at one point. He had that dominant game against Miami in 2021, but ended up dealing with some bad injury luck that I think kind of just had him buried on the depth chart. As time went on, it sounds like they wanted him to switch to safety, and for whatever reason, he didn't love that idea. So he looked elsewhere, but now he's decided that he wants to come back and give it another go. Now, I think this is a positive addition for several reasons. One being the fact that he wanted to come back, and the fact that the staff was willing to take him back. It proves that when he left a year ago, it wasn't an ugly departure by any means. I don't think the staff is playing that kind of game, especially at this point, so good sign that there's not a culture issue or something like that involved. Now, I do actually think it helps the roster a lot, too. This is a guy that at one point was actually pretty good for the Noles. Now, obviously, since 2021, Florida State has thankfully raised the bar of what it takes to be a starter here, but like I mentioned, he played lights out in that game against Miami. So my point is, this is a kid who's taken meaningful snaps on a big stage for Florida State and performed very well. Now, if he's healthy, he could very well work to get back to that form, and especially now with Pat Surtain being in there to help with the DBs. We could see some really good development come out and just maybe salvage Duke's career. Now, I do think he'll come back in as a safety as they originally planned, and if nothing else, I think he adds at least serviceable depth there, and you can never go wrong with that. Now, another big addition, literally to the defensive side of the ball, is Cam Riley, a linebacker transfer in from Auburn. He actually entered the portal back in December, and at one point, I thought Florida State would, in fact, land him, but then he committed to NC State in February. Now, I'm not sure what happened there, but he didn't enroll, obviously, and ended up decommitting from the Wolfpack in April, and now committed to the Noles just a couple of days ago. Now, rejoice, a linebacker finally adding some depth to that room, which was much needed, and especially depth that took starting snaps in the SEC for Auburn. Now, like I said, he's a big addition coming in at 6'5", 240 pounds, so he looks a little bit different than the other linebackers that Florida State currently has, at least from a size standpoint. He should be like a more athletic DJ Lundy, in my opinion. I do think there's some things he could do better, like coverage and space, but I think he helps a lot in run stopping and especially in short yardage situations. But mainly, a lot like Duke Cooper, who we just mentioned, I think he makes the room better, but of course makes it deeper. DJ Lundy, we all like. Blake Nicholson, we are really excited about, but who knows if he's ready to take a lead role quite yet. And Sean Murphy, the linebacker from Alabama, could very well take some time to get adjusted to a new system. And having a veteran guy like Cam Riley could be super beneficial to those guys. And I think if nothing else, he's a bit of a hedge just in case you miss on one of them. I think it's actually pretty interesting. I know a lot of fans may have been looking to hear more out of Florida State in the spring portal window. For one, they can still take guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they still took a wide receiver and another defensive tackle. The deadline that ended a couple days ago was just for players to enter, but the guys that are still actually in the portal still have plenty of time to decide where they want to go, so they could still definitely make some additions, but I also just think that this spring portal window didn't have a huge crop of elite guys to pick from. Now, luckily, in my opinion, Florida State had their roster pretty much set, and more than anything, they just needed to add some pieces for mainly depth, and mainly at safety and linebacker, and that's exactly what they went and did. So it may not have been the glamorous portal window that Noles fans have grown accustomed to over the last couple of years, but I think they still have made some important additions, improved the roster, and greatly improved the depth. And again, they could still not be quite finished, so take that for what it's worth. But cool to see Duke Cooper come home, and I'm never going to complain about adding an SEC linebacker to the roster, but now I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. How do you feel about these two additions? How do you feel about the roster right now as a whole? Definitely leave a comment, let me know what you think, and drop a like while you're at it. We appreciate you guys tuning in for some portal updates. We'll catch you on the next one. Go Noles.